There's a book that you have, and it's called They Came to Nashville.
Right.
It's a collection of interviews. One of the chapters I thought was very entertaining. It's the Willie Nelson chapter. and you've got a track on the album
Don't
called...
give it away. Well, it's interesting you bring that up. The new CD and the new book were released on the same day. But unlike my first book where we released a companion CD, this new CD was about Tim Krekel. But there is one connection to the book, and it's what you mentioned. It's Riding with Willie. I spent 3 days on Willie Nelson's bus trying to interview him for the book, and we won't give away what happens, but I write an intro in each chapter. Each chapter is a songwriter I've known. Each chapter I write an intro. Some of the intros are a paragraph long, half-page long. Well, the Willie Nelson chapter, my intro is 46 pages long.
Yeah.
And, some of the critics have described it as up there with Hunter Thompson as far as rock and roll journalism, because, man, I was out there. I did not sleep 1 minute while I was on the bus. I was literally hallucinating when we pulled up to the Beaumont Holiday Inn. And when we did, as often happens when I'm in a state like that, these words started coming. They were pretty cosmic, more cosmic than I usually write, when everything's swirling around out of control and everybody's down to their very soul, dancing to the rhythm of the universal whole. I don't think I would normally write a lyric like that unless I'd been on Willie Nelson's bus for 3 days, because let me tell you something, you don't have to partake, you just breathe, okay? It's there. So I was probably out there in my mind a little bit when I wrote that. But I just wrote it as 2 verses and kind of a chorus. I thought it was a poem. I wasn't even sure it was a song. And then exactly a year later, almost to the date, when I decided I was going to make a record to honor Tim Krekel, I was sitting at my desk, and I thought, I need to look at those lyrics. And I finished the song, writing 2 more verses about what happened on Willie's bus after the Beaumont show, which is, I don't know about you, but if I were 75 years old and had been touring for 3 weeks playing one-nighters and just played a 2.5-hour show and signed autographs and done everything, I would go crash in the back of my bus. I would not do what Willie did, which was he went back, took a shower, changed into a size XXX Snoop Dogg black T-shirt, and came out in black socks with his guitar and walked to the front of the bus and sat down with him and his sister, Bobby, who plays piano in his band. And he said, somebody get a Casio. They got a little Casio and put it across my lap and hers, and by then we were going along a bumpy stretch of Interstate 10 near Houston, and I'm trying to hold it still, and she and Willie proceeded to play for about 2.5 hours, like from 2 to 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
They were playing instrumental songs that they used to play, trying to see if they still knew them. A lot of Django Reinhardt. He played Nuage. It was just magical. And so when I came to finish Riding with Willie, sitting there at my desk a year later, that scene of him and Bobby playing those songs played a big part in that last verse.
The album closes out with I Love Everybody. This is a live cut, and it was recorded at a music club and bowling alley.
Yeah, music club / bowling alley. The Vernon, the great Vernon in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, Tim first told me about that place. God, man, you got to come up here and play. There's this great new club. It's in the basement of the bowling alley. Of course, when I was playing it that night that recording was, they hadn't quite finished renovating the club, so the ball returns for the bowling alley, which was upstairs, are going right over your head while you're playing on stage. And you could not only see the bowling balls, you could hear them. So it was pretty rock and roll. When I finished the record, the last song I had was, I thought it was a studio album, all new stuff recorded in the studio. And then I remembered Waylon Jennings had that album, Dreaming My Dreams, which was a great studio album, which I think probably was his finest record. And he put that live cut, Bob Wills Is Still the King, that he'd written on the bus and played in Austin that night. And I thought, that's kind of cool, having a live cut at the end of a record. And for some reason, it's kind of cosmic, too, with Tim. The fact that this was to honor him and that he had died, to end it with a live cut. It just is almost like the whole album is sort of cathartic and just goes through the whole process of coming to terms with his death and then ending it with something live. That just seems so appropriate. I don't think I was even thinking about it as logically as I'm expressing it to you now. So that's what I decided to do. But when we first finished it, we had played the Belgium Rhythm and Blues Festival. Tim came and was like, I had a band called the Love Slaves. Had 2 lead guitar players. One of them couldn't go, so I took Tim to Belgium. We played the Belgium Rhythm and Blues Festival. And there's a great track that the Belgium radio had recorded, but it wasn't 24-track. They were kind of mixing it in their mobile unit as we went along. And so I had that on the album. And then I called Debbie because I wanted her to hear the album. And Tim's playing harmonica on that track. And she and her sister were driving from Florida back to Louisville, and they were just 10 miles out of Nashville. When I called her, I said, hey, let's meet for lunch. And when we did, she said, there's a live track of the last time you and Tim really did play together. When the band came up and joined you, like you write about and Tim revisited. I said, you are kidding. She said, no, they got a 24 track. So that night, they overnighted, and I called Utley, and we went back in the studio. That was an expensive piece of information, I might add, because I opened up I thought I was through with the album. We went back in, and there was one little train wreck place that we cleaned up, and because it was 24 track. But that's pretty much, I thought it was so cool to have the actual last time I played with Tim Kruckle close out this album.
Amazing. Real quick, last question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Tim before we ended our interview. This interview will be heard by people from all over the place.
Okay.
And now, Red, what do you want to say to all the people?
Well, if you don't know about Tim Kruckle, he's a great singer, songwriter, a band leader. Worked out of Louisville, Kentucky. A little bit more R&B than country, but he could play it all. And if you don't know his music, I recommend you start with the last 2 CDs. It's almost like part of him knew he wasn't going to be with us much longer, because at an age where most people are phoning it in, Tim was up in the ante. I couldn't believe the albums he was making, like Angel Share. I mean, come on. So go out right now, go to Amazon and order World Keep Turning and Soul Season. It's a very Stax kind of 60s. They buried Wilson Pickett in my backyard. You'll be glad you did. That's what I got to say.
Thank you so much, Marshall Chapman.
Thank you, Paul.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it. I'm glad we finally got to sit down.
It's great.
I appreciate your persistence.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.